I still remember the day I met her like it was yesterday. It was the first day of 7th grade, and I was nervous. New school, new people, everything felt so big and scary. Then I saw her sitting alone at lunch, reading a book. I was shy, but something told me to go talk to her. "Hi," I said, sitting down next to her. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Hey, I'm Emma." I told her my name, and just like that, we started talking. At first, it was small talk, favorite movies, music, classes. But the more we talked, the more I felt like I had found someone who really understood me. She was funny and kind, and she never judged me. I remember telling her about my family problems, how my parents were always fighting, how sometimes I felt invisible at home. She listened without interrupting. That meant everything to me. From that day on, we were best friends. We did everything together. Walked to school, studied for tests, shared lunches, and talked for hours on the phone. I told her my deepest secrets. I told her about my crush on this boy in school, about the time I got bullied, about the nightmares I had. She promised she would never tell anyone. And for a while, I believed her. High school started, and we were still inseparable. People noticed us, the two girls who were always laughing together. Teachers said we worked well as a team. I even introduced her to my parents, and they liked her. But then, things started to change. It was subtle at first, the way she sometimes looked away when I spoke, or the times she would suddenly get busy whenever I wanted to hang out. One afternoon, I sat in the cafeteria, telling her about how nervous I was for the math test. She just smiled and said, "Don't worry, you'll be fine." But her eyes were different, cold, like she wasn't really there. Later, I overheard a group of girls whispering about me. They were laughing and pointing in my direction. I asked what was going on, and one girl said, "Oh, didn't you know? Emma told us everything you said about your crush and your family problems." I felt like someone punched me in the stomach. I confronted Emma that day after school. "Why did you tell them?" I asked, voice shaking. She shrugged and said, "It's just high school. Everyone talks." But to me, it wasn't just talking. It was betrayal. The person I trusted most had broken my trust in the worst way. After that, my life in school became a nightmare. I felt like everyone was watching me, waiting for me to mess up. I couldn't trust anyone anymore. And the worst part was seeing Emma pretend like nothing had happened, laughing with those same girls, acting like my best friend was some kind of joke. After I found out that Emma had been sharing my secrets, everything started to fall apart. I thought maybe if I kept quiet and acted like it didn't bother me, things would get better. But high school wasn't that kind. Rumors spread faster than wildfire. One day, I heard whispers as soon as I walked into the hallway. "Did you hear what Emma said about her?" Some girls giggled. Others would point and snicker. I couldn't even look them in the eyes. It wasn't just whispers. It was the little things that hurt the most. People who used to say hi to me suddenly acted like I wasn't there. My phone stopped ringing with texts or invites. I sat alone at lunch every day. The loneliness felt like a heavy blanket I couldn't shake off. But what really broke me was when Emma would do things that made me feel small in front of everyone. It was like she enjoyed seeing me hurt. One day, we had a school assembly in the gym. The principal was talking about something important, but I wasn't paying attention. I noticed Emma whispering and giggling with a group of friends. Then suddenly, she called out my name. "Hey, everyone, did you know that she's scared of the dark? Like, she still sleeps with a night light," she said loud enough for the whole gym to hear. The whole room burst into laughter. My face turned bright red. I looked down, trying to disappear into my seat. No one stood up for me. I could feel the eyes of the entire school on me, judging, laughing. After the assembly, I wanted to cry but didn't want to give Emma the satisfaction. I ran to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and let the tears fall. I felt so small and broken. The person who was supposed to be my best friend was the one hurting me the most. But it didn't stop there. Emma's jokes became meaner, and she started telling even more of my secrets, the ones I thought she forgot. She would act like nothing was wrong, smile in my face, and then turn around and laugh with others about me. I remember one day in biology class, she whispered something to the whole table about a mistake I made in a project. The teacher heard and gave me a hard time in front of everyone. I wanted to disappear. At lunch, I sat by myself every day. I tried to make new friends, but Emma was so popular that no one wanted to cross her. It was like she had a wall around me, no one was allowed in. My grades started slipping because I couldn't focus. I felt exhausted all the time. I stopped raising my hand in class. I stopped smiling. I felt invisible. Sometimes, I wondered if it was my fault. Maybe I was too shy or too quiet. Maybe I was the one who made Emma angry. But deep down, I knew it wasn't true. I was just a kid trying to survive high school. At home, I tried to keep my pain hidden. My parents were busy with their own lives, and I didn't want to worry them. I spent nights staring at the ceiling, feeling like my whole world was falling apart. One night, I found myself scrolling through old pictures of me and Emma, smiling, laughing, happy. I missed that girl. I missed the friend I thought I had. But I also knew I couldn't go back to that. Not after what she did. By the time senior year rolled around, I was a completely different person than the girl who sat next to Emma on that first day of 7th grade. The fun, laughter, and trust we once shared felt like a distant memory, buried under months of pain and betrayal. Emma had become the queen of the school, the popular girl everyone wanted to be around. And I was the joke, the girl no one took seriously. One afternoon, everything came to a head. It was a typical Friday, and our whole school was buzzing with excitement because graduation was just weeks away. Everyone was talking about plans, parties, and future dreams. But for me, the only thing I could think about was how Emma continued to make my life miserable. That day, I had been asked to present a project in front of the class. I spent hours preparing it, wanting to prove to myself and everyone else that I could do this, that I was more than the rumors and whispers. When I stood up in front of the class, I felt nervous but determined. I took a deep breath and started speaking, explaining my points clearly. But then, Emma's voice cut through the room like a knife. "Oh, look, she's trying so hard. Like, who even cares?" she sneered, laughing with her friends. The class erupted into snickers. My hands shook. My throat tightened. I wanted to run out of the room and never come back. But then something inside me snapped. After class, Emma cornered me by my locker. Her smile was cold, fake. "Why don't you just give up? Nobody likes you," she whispered, her voice dripping with cruelty. I felt anger rising like fire in my chest. For the first time in a long time, I stood up straight and looked her in the eye. "You think you're so perfect, don't you? But I know your secret, Emma. And I'm not scared of you anymore," I said, my voice steady. She froze. "What secret?" she asked, voice barely a whisper. That moment was the turning point, the moment I decided I wasn't going to let her ruin me anymore. Graduation day felt like the final chapter of a book I never wanted to finish. Everyone was dressed in caps and gowns, smiling and hugging. The air buzzed with excitement and relief, the end of high school and the start of something new. But for me, it was the moment I'd been waiting for. The moment to finally stand up for myself and expose Emma for who she really was. I had spent weeks planning. I knew I couldn't just shout out her secret in the middle of the ceremony. It had to be smart, unforgettable, and public enough that no one could ignore it. Emma strutted across the auditorium, waving and posing for pictures, soaking in all the attention. She was still the queen, but today, that was about to change. When it was my turn to walk up to the stage, my heart was pounding like a drum. I could feel every eye in the room on me. I took a deep breath, smiled, and stepped up to the microphone. "Good afternoon, everyone," I began, trying to keep my voice steady even though it was shaking inside. I looked out at the sea of faces, classmates, teachers, parents. Then I looked directly at Emma, who was sitting a few rows in front, grinning confidently. "For the past few years, I've been betrayed by someone I trusted deeply," I said, voice growing stronger. "She was my best friend, or so I thought." A hush fell over the room. I'm here today not just to graduate, but to tell the truth. Because sometimes, the truth is the only way to heal. Emma's smile faltered, her eyes narrowing. I paused, then said, "Emma has been hiding something. Something she didn't want anyone to know." The auditorium was silent. Everyone leaned in. You see, Emma pretended to be my friend, but behind my back, she was lying, cheating, and even stealing from people. Gasps echoed through the crowd. I pulled out my phone and held it up. Here are messages and photos that prove what she's been doing. I started showing screenshots, Emma gossiping, cheating on tests, and worst of all, stealing money from the school fundraiser. Emma's face turned white. She tried to stand but was stopped by a teacher. The principal took the microphone next, saying, "We take these accusations seriously and will investigate immediately." I stepped down from the stage, my heart pounding with relief and fear. People came up to me afterward, thanking me for being brave. That day, I didn't just graduate from high school, I graduated from being the scared, quiet girl. I became someone who stood up for herself. The moment I stepped off that stage, my legs felt like jelly. It wasn't just the adrenaline from speaking in front of the whole school, it was everything I had been holding inside for years. I'd finally said the words no one wanted to hear. Emma's dirty secret was out. The auditorium was thick with silence, the kind that makes your skin crawl. I could hear whispers like tiny waves crashing in the background. People were talking, but no one dared to say a word loud enough to break the tension. Emma's face was the hardest to look at. She sat frozen, eyes wide, mouth slightly open like she was trying to swallow the words I said but couldn't. The confident girl who walked into that room earlier was gone. Now, she looked exposed and small, like a mask had been ripped off, revealing everything underneath. As I made my way back to my seat, I felt every stare. Some were shocked, others were angry or confused. I could even feel the cold shoulder from some of Emma's friends who now avoided me like I had the plague. When I finally sat down, I couldn't stop my hands from shaking. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might burst out of my chest. I kept thinking, did I do the right thing? What if I've just ruined everything? But then the principal stepped up to the microphone. His voice was steady but serious. We take these allegations very seriously. The school will conduct a full investigation immediately. Thank you for your courage in coming forward. That announcement felt like a wave of relief washing over me. It was the first time someone officially said I was telling the truth. That afternoon, as we left the auditorium, rumors started spreading like wildfire. Some said Emma was in trouble. Others whispered she might get expelled. But no one knew for sure. A few days later, I heard Emma was called into the principal's office multiple times. I didn't want to gloat, but part of me felt a small sense of justice. The girl who humiliated me was finally facing consequences. The hardest part, though, was what happened with our classmates. Some kids I barely knew came up to me and said things like, "I'm sorry I never stood up for you," or "You were so brave." Those words meant everything. For the first time, I felt seen. But on the other hand, Emma's close friends turned on me hard. They whispered behind my back, spread new rumors, and acted like I was the bad guy. One day, I overheard someone say, "She's just jealous because Emma is way cooler." I felt that sting, like getting punched in the gut over and over again. But by then, I was stronger. I had something they didn't, the truth and my own self-respect. At home, things changed, too. I finally told my parents everything, about Emma, about how lonely and scared I'd felt. They hugged me for hours. They told me how proud they were of me for standing up and that I didn't deserve any of the pain I went through. That night, I cried, not from sadness, but from relief. I was done hiding. I was done being the quiet, broken girl. Graduation day became a turning point. It wasn't just about getting a diploma, it was about reclaiming my life. I learned that sometimes, the hardest battles are the ones inside us, and the bravest thing we can do is speak our truth, no matter the cost. I still don't know what will happen with Emma or how things will be when we meet again, but I do know one thing for sure. I'm done letting anyone make me feel small. Graduation was supposed to be a celebration, the start of something new and exciting. And in many ways, it was. But it was also the beginning of a long road for me, one filled with healing, new challenges, and learning how to trust again. The week after graduation, I woke up feeling lighter. It was like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I no longer had to pretend everything was fine or hide the pain Emma had caused me. I was free. But freedom wasn't easy at first. People still talked. High school gossip doesn't just end with the last bell. Emma's friends kept their distance, and some students still whispered when I walked by. Sometimes I caught people staring, unsure whether they saw me as the girl who exposed the truth or just the drama starter. It hurt, yes, but I remembered something my mom told me that summer. People who matter will stand by you. The rest don't deserve your energy. I took those words to heart. That summer, I focused on myself. I started volunteering at a local community center, helping kids with their homework. It felt good to do something positive, to remind myself there was more to life than high school drama. I also reconnected with old friends I had drifted away from during those tough years. We talked about everything, from silly memories to our hopes for the future. It was like rebuilding a lost part of myself. When fall came, I started college with a new mindset. I wasn't going to be the shy, scared girl anymore. I wanted to be confident, kind, and true to myself. The experience with Emma taught me so much about trust and betrayal, but also about courage. I learned that standing up for yourself is never easy, but it's necessary. Sometimes the people you think are your friends might surprise you, and not always in a good way. But that doesn't mean you stop believing in kindness or stop trying to find real friends. Looking back, I'm proud of what I did. It was scary to speak out. It risked a lot, but it saved me in the end. If you're listening and you're going through something similar, whether it's bullying, betrayal, or feeling invisible, know this: your voice matters. Your truth matters. Don't let anyone make you feel small. And when the time is right, don't be afraid to stand up and speak out. Because your story might just inspire someone else to find their courage, too. Looking back on everything, it's crazy how one friendship can change your whole world, both in a bad way and a good way. Emma taught me what betrayal really feels like. It wasn't just about a mean joke or a moment of embarrassment. It was about someone I trusted hurting me in a way that made me question myself for years. That pain didn't just disappear overnight. It stayed with me, like a shadow. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life stories just like this. And if you've ever had to stand up to someone who hurt you, or if you've learned something important about friendship or trust, share your experience in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.